Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Beliefcast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
And we are back. This is Todd Sylvester, the host of the Beliefcast. As always, thanks for tuning in. It means the world to me. You guys are amazing. Thank you for not only tuning in, but sharing the episodes that you listen to. It really helps get the word out. And I know you're sharing them because these amazing people I bring on. Again, just the shout out to my sponsors. Thank you for believing in me and supporting this. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. But today on the Beliefcast, I'm joined by someone who embodies passion, purpose, and the power of personal transformation, Madeline Allred. Madeline, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, and I've had most of your family on as well, and I don't think I can't say that about any other guest I've ever had on. So that says a lot about you and your family, who I love so much. So shout out to your beautiful family. Madeline is a certified health and life coach and a student of exercise and wellness at BYU. Madeline helps others create lasting change by building habits that stick and unlocking their true potential. With a heart full of compassion and mindset rooted in resilience, Madeline is on a mission to guide people toward becoming their healthiest, happiest version of themselves. Whether she's coaching a client or exploring the outdoors, Madeline brings energy, authenticity, and purpose to everything she does. And that's just scratching the surface. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So why don't we start off, just have our listeners tell us a little bit about, your family growing up and a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up I'm from Denver, Colorado. I say Denver because that's like where I was the longest. I was there for 5 years, and that's the longest for me. Yeah. So I've moved, honestly, I haven't even counted, but I think around like 18, 19 times in my life. So it's been a lot. And honestly, it's not for my dad's work. We're not military. It's kind of was just I don't know. My mom's been on this podcast, and she's the best woman ever, but she's very in tune. And when she felt like, no, we're not supposed to be here, we'd go. We'd leave. So I lived somewhere for 3 months, and then she was like, yeah, it's not quite right.
This isn't working. Yeah.
So you have to leave. So my family's really good at packing boxes and we're really good at leaving. But honestly,
was that hard for you?
To be honest, it wasn't, because it was something I was so used to. Okay. But looking back at like my childhood now, it was really crucial for making me into the person that I am now, because I had so many fresh starts. I moved my junior year of high school. I moved to Draper, Utah, and I feel like a lot of the people that are there, they grew up there. Their parents are from there. Everyone's kind of born and raised, which is awesome, and that comes with its own benefits. But for me, I feel like I noticed a lot of the people, they really struggled, like moving out to college and going on a mission or whatever it was. Like, and fresh starts were kind of hard, but for me, because I've had it so many times, I feel like I learned so many valuable life lessons from making new friends, connecting with people from all ages, adults, kids, and not having to rely on a reputation. And so that kind of came with pros and cons, I would say. But overall, I feel like it's been it's had a net positive effect on me. Yeah,
so obviously you see it as an overall positive, and that's a really good mindset to have. I work with a lot of clients, to be honest with you, who've done a lot of moving, and they had the opposite effect. Would it be fair to say, because of your parents and how, and we had a shout out to your mom, just how rooted they are and just how, they carry themselves, do you feel like that's why it made it easier for you, because following their example?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I also feel like my parents were one thing that my mom always like ingrained in I say my mom, but my mom and my dad. Something that they both ingrained in us is just that life happens for you, not to you. And so moving all the time was like, all right, who needs you here? It's not about who's going to sit by me at lunch today? Who's going to invite me to hang out today? Who's going to text me? It's like, who am I going to text? Who am I going to try to reach out to today? Why am I here? Because there's a reason. And I remember when I moved to Utah, I put a sticky note on my mirror. What did it say? It was like something like there's somebody who needs you today, and that sticky note stayed on there ever till I left on my mission. And that was kind of just, it's almost like an affirmation that I would remind myself every day, like, why am I here? Who am I going to need to touch today? And having that mindset of less being focused on like, who's going to serve me? Who am I going to serve? Was really important for me growing up, and especially moving to all those places was really helped with that change.
Wow. Okay, I got a million questions already in my head by what you just said. So first of all, you had me at the life happens for you. And again, I really believe that. I believe all the good, the bad, everything is forming us to help us be better, right? And you mentioned something, and I want to get your more thoughts on this because I thought it was powerful. You said, I had to not rely on reputation. Explain that a little bit more, if you will.
Yeah, of course. Reputation, especially, I went to 3 different high schools, and so it's a big thing for people in high school. Like, what are people going to think of me? Like, I've built up this reputation. Can I stick with it? And for me, it was almost like each place I moved to, each high school I moved to was like, okay, who's Madeline Allred going to be at Rock Canyon High School? Who's Madeline Allred going to be at Mountain Vista High School, Corner Canyon High School? Like, I didn't have something that I felt like I had to be this person because everyone knew me as this person. And everyone knew me as, I don't know, I danced in high school, and it wasn't like everyone knew me as the dancer. It was like, who am I going to be here? Who am I going to be there? It was just, I tried to improve, and obviously I wasn't a completely different person every time, but I tried to be better and try to just be like, what do I want people to know about me? Do I want people to see me as someone who's like kind and outgoing and will invite other people in, or do I want people to see me as someone who needs the invite, who's someone, I don't know. It just, what do I want people to think of me? And I got to choose that, but not in a way that I was held back by what other people had previously believed about me.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
That does make sense. And that's pretty amazing that you have that perspective. And again, you're younger, obviously, but you're obviously very mature, and you see things really in such a powerful way. It's pretty rare to hear what you just said for someone who is, you're in college and stuff, to be able to have that perspective. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you. I attribute all of that to my parents.
Again, we learn from our parents and stuff. So also, I want to go back to that sticky note that said, hey, someone needs me today. Wow. Where did that come from? Like, why did someone help guide you to that? Or did you just have this feeling like, I need to make sure I'm making a difference in people's lives?
That's a great question. So my freshman year of high school, my first high school that I went to, that I really, really struggled at the beginning of high school, honestly. And it was at that high school that I would eat lunch by myself every single day. It was either like in the bathroom by myself, or I'd call my mom, and like my mom would sit with me in the parking lot, and we would eat lunch together in the parking lot. And I felt I was just very alone, and I just felt like there were so many people all around me, but no one really knew me. And I don't know, I was very, very lonely, and I struggled a lot with my mental health at that point too. And so moving to Utah, my junior year of high school was kind of like that. It was a fresh start. Like, nobody knew who I was before. Again, who am I going to choose to be here? And I kind of like, we can talk about this more later if you want, but I buried a lot of things and kind of just like completely fresh start when I moved to Utah. And in my head, I was like, why should people be asking me to sit by me? And like, why am I always expecting that someone should come and make sure I'm not lonely? Like, there's people who are eating in the bathroom alone. There are people who are calling their mom, asking them to sit with them. And I would have loved if someone would have asked if they could sit with me at lunch. And so in my mind, it was like, okay, I have a fresh start here. That's who I'm going to choose to be. I'm going to be the person who's going to reach out to the people who need someone to sit to. And I feel like that's kind of my life motto, even with what I'm doing with my coaching, is I want to be someone who I would have loved to have growing up.
Right.
It's my goal.
I think everyone listening to this can relate with what you're saying. Those moments where you feel like you're alone, no one likes you. why would anyone want to even sit with me? And that lost feeling, I guess, was it a feeling of like, I'm not enough? Was it, I'm not good enough? And let's go there. You said you buried a lot of things. If you don't mind, let's talk about that and what that was like.
Yeah. So I was homeschooled for my middle school years. Okay. Yeah. So it was about 3 years that I was homeschooled. And so I was going into this high school, and everyone else going into that high school, they all went to middle school together. And I'm kind of just this random person being dropped in. And I feel like why I felt lonely, I think it wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, okay, this is when I say that I buried stuff. It's true. And so when I moved to Utah, again, it was a fresh start. I struggled a lot with my mental health, and I buried a lot of it. And like, as you know, like your mind physically blocks things out as a safety mechanism. Sure. And so there's a lot that I'm actually still going through, like trying to work through. I actually don't remember a lot of my time in Colorado because I actually blocked it out. And so little by little, I am learning things about myself all the time. And my mom will always remind me, I'm like, there's no way that happened. But she's like, no, it did. And it was a really big deal. But for me, I blocked it out because of the trauma that I had.
The pain in it, yeah.
So why I felt lonely, I don't know. I think I just felt like an outcast, maybe.
Yeah. I can relate with that because, growing up, I had this belief that ultimately I looked funny. People will never, no girl will ever want to date me. I wasn't good enough, that kind of thing. And my experience in dealing with clients over the last 35 years, it's pretty universal. And it's pretty common, right? For someone to I just don't feel like I'm good enough kind of thing. And so, and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint, where does that stem from? Where did it start? That kind of thing. And, but again, obviously you took that, at least at that time, and you're like, okay, so instead of me focusing on me, how can I be there for someone who needs, what I would want? And so you started giving that away, correct? And how did that start to help maybe shape and maybe help improve your mental health, at least at that time?
Yeah. It was everything. Honestly, I think one thing that's so important to me, talking about what we believe in and where our beliefs come from, is that we're agents unto ourselves, and that like my agency, my ability to choose is everything. Going back to that, life happens for you, not to you. It was everything. Felt like I was finally taking control of my life and giving me some sort of control. And it didn't make me the victim anymore, because now I was going out and doing something about it. Yeah. And I think just feeling like I had control and feeling like I could make a difference, that meant everything to me, even if it was so little.
Yeah.
It was so important and gave me purpose and helped me feel like I was important.
Yeah. So basically taking accountability.
Exactly.
Like, okay, if I want things to be better, I got to do something, right?
Exactly.
And I love this, because I'll share this with my clients too, where I'll be like, if you take accountability, suffering stops. When the opposite of accountability is where we kind of get in that victim mindset, and we're stuck there, and suffering is magnified, right? When we're in that spot.
Absolutely.
So you started taking accountability. Okay, I'm going to go make a difference. I'm going to start getting outside myself. And obviously you started noticing some big changes, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. My life completely changed, and then it continues to change. I feel like my life is in chapters, and it just on to the next chapter. Yeah. And there's always a downfall and a high. Like your life's always going like this.
Yeah, the ups and downs of the life, and and I'm still myself going through all that. I thought I had it all figured out.
So it makes life interesting, right?
It does, right? So let's talk about, so you go through high school, things are getting probably a little better because you're taking some accountability, but again, ups and downs. High school's a minefield, it's trying to, not step on that bomb and that kind of thing. So you make it through high school, and you decide to go on a mission. Tell us about how that was. And I know you had some obviously great times on your mission, but there was obviously something that happened on your mission that kind of defined what you're even doing today.
Yeah. So I guess I feel like my journey kind of started with before I even got on my mission. I was never planning on going on a mission.
Okay.
My mom got married at 18. My sister was married at 19. My other sister was married at 18. So, and since that's what I saw growing up, it was kind of like, okay, I guess I'll get married at 18, 19.
Yeah.
Did not go according to plan. I got to college, and my mindset was kind of like, okay, if I meet someone, then like I'll probably get married. If not, I won't. Obviously that didn't go as planned, which was actually perfectly planned all along. But so going on a mission, it was never really in one of my plans. But I remember one time, hopefully I don't get emotional here, but
it's okay. It's a safe place here.
I remember one time we were in a church meeting and in a sacrament meeting, and everyone was sharing their testimonies. And I remember someone stood up, and it was the bishop of our congregation, and he was sharing his testimony about how his daughter being on a mission has blessed his family so much. Yeah. And my older brother struggles from a lot of health issues, and so he wasn't able to go on a mission. He always wanted to, but wasn't able to. And so it just kind of like hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah. That like my brother wasn't able to bring those blessings to our family in that way. Yeah. But there was no reason why I couldn't. Like I was perfectly capable of doing that. Wow. And so I was like, okay, I guess I will go until God tells me not to, was my mindset. Right. Until I got home, truly. Because I wasn't sure how long I was going to last out there. Oh, man. And so I started my papers, and I started working on getting out there. And then I had several setbacks that made it so I wasn't able to leave when I had originally planned on going. Okay. And that was difficult, but one of the biggest blessings ever, because I felt like because it wasn't an easy journey for me getting there. I remember telling myself like, okay, God, like I want to show you that I will do anything to serve you. Like even if I have to go through all these things and wait all this time, like I want to show you that I'm willing to do what you want me to do. Even if I don't end up doing this, like I want to do what it takes. Sure. And so I took a lot of personal preparation to get there, and I did. I served in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was the best experience ever. I loved my mission. My mission means everything to me. Nice. Yeah. But I, again, didn't know if I was going to stay. I remember my first transfer. I was like, okay, a mission for a girl is 18 months. And I remember telling my mom, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but it's not 18 months. I am not. I cannot do this.
Who came up with this 18 months, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, but then I got out there, and after a couple months, you just kind of lose yourself in the work, and it's just, you see so many miracles. You see the hand of God in every detail of your life, and it was amazing. But when people ask me like what the hardest part of my mission is, like this sounds self-conceited in a way, but this was the hardest part of my mission is I really struggled with my body, and I grew up in a really healthy home. I grew up an athlete, and so I was always moving and always trying to put the best things I could in my body, and then going on a mission and not having control over that anymore was so difficult. And so I gained a lot of weight, and it was really hard. Every day when I would get in the shower, I would just cry, and I would call my mom on P days, and I would just say like, I'm so sick of this. Like, and my mom would always be like, you don't notice, like you look great. And here's the thing about like body image is it doesn't matter like what other people see, it's what I see. Like I looked in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw. It didn't matter if other people were like, oh, you're beautiful, you look fine, you look great. Like I didn't like what I saw. And that was really difficult for me, because it was something I hadn't ever struggled with in the past. If anything, I struggled with being too small. Like I was insecure with how small I was. And now all of a sudden I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, and it was really, really difficult for me. Mm-hmm. And so getting home and trying to navigate that was hard, but getting home, it actually led me into what I'm doing now. I now work as a health and nutrition coach, and I get the opportunity to help missionaries like me and people who are not on missions with all sorts of health and wellness goals.
That's amazing. You know, I work with a lot of girls who have body dysmorphia, where it's kind of like what you were just saying, like, you know, you could bring in 1 million people and they'd say, you look fantastic. And you're right. It doesn't matter what everyone's thinking. It's what you think and believe, you know. And for those, you know, who don't understand body dysmorphia, a person can literally look in the mirror and see a horrible looking body, even if it's not true, but it doesn't matter, like you said. And so I also know that's one of the more difficult things to overcome. So if you can share some of maybe the things that you did to start working on changing that belief system and that mindset to kind of leading you to what you're doing with your coaching.
Yeah. Going back to taking accountability and feeling like you have some sort of power, I feel like that's where things really started to shift.
Okay.
I feel like on your mission, you're so, like, you want so bad, you're there for other people. The purpose is for you to serve other people. But that doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself too. And I think that was a really big misconception that I had and that a lot of my clients had. You know, there's a point where you really can say no when someone offers you something. Like, you really can. And that sounds silly, but it is really hard for people to say no, especially when someone's put in so much effort into making this meal for you. And I'm gluten-free, and so I have celiac. So one thing that was hard is I felt like when I went to dinner for people's houses, someone would make me like a whole pan of gluten-free brownies, and it was so generous of them.
Right.
But then I felt like I had to, if I ate just a little bit of the brownies, then like you have this whole pan that they made for me and it's untouched. And so I felt like I had to eat a lot. And so there's a lot of things like that sound little, but those of you who have been on missions, like, you get it. You feel like you want to just show your gratitude and eat everything. And so learning to say no, and then learning just like little things that I could do, like when I was eating food that maybe I didn't want to do, that would make my body react in different ways, helping my blood sugar stay level and stuff like that was really important, because it felt like even though I was still eating what someone had given me and it wasn't my choice to eat that, it was my choice on what order I was going to eat my food and how much of it I was going to eat. Like, what things can I change and what things do I have control over in a situation where I maybe don't feel like I have a lot of control. That was really important for me. And standing up for myself, I had the most amazing companions on my mission. But it was important to me that when I got with my companions, that I made it clear, like, okay, I'm going to, like, working out and eating healthy is really important to me. And so maybe you're only going to work out for X amount of time, or you're going to not work out. Like, I think sometimes it's hard for people. They just want to do what their companion's doing. But for me, it was like, no, I have to do this for my mental health and for my sanity.
For sure.
I need to do this. And so I would have companions that would sit on the curb and just watch me run back and forth between trash can to trash can. And then I had a companion who would sit in the car and drive while she ran. Thankfully, all my companions would always go with me, but they would like drive in the car right next to her as she ran. And so just like finding little ways to like take control again over situations you don't have a lot of control over. That was really important for me on my mission.
I love that. That is amazing. Again, taking accountability, like you said. I think everyone can, if we're being honest, it's really difficult to say no to people, because we feel like our natural tendency is like, oh yeah, sure, thank you. And because again, we don't want conflict. We don't want, and if we
really are grateful.
Yeah. And you are grateful. Like, hey, that was really nice of you to make this, but you know what, to be honest with you, I can't eat that. That would be really hard. And it really isn't silly, because I think everyone listening to this can, if they're being honest, will go, yeah, that's tough. I had a daughter who went to Tonga on her mission, and they would make this, drink. It was a dessert. it was orange crush, and they put it in a big cup, and then they would put a big loaf of bread in, like a big loaf of bread in there, and that was the dessert. And my daughter, same thing, would be like, but you can't say no over there, because it's almost like you're being rude. So it was like, okay, I guess I'll eat this. So I heard a lot of stories from her, just similar to what you're saying, and had some of the similar difficulties. But yeah, so you start working on yourself, right? And you start seeing like, okay, I'm taking control of my life, taking control of my eating. Did it take a while for you? Because you said you kind of had like this negative belief system about food. How did that change over time, or is it something you still wrestle with, or if you don't mind explaining that a little bit?
Of course. When I got home from my mission, I felt like I developed a bad relationship with food on my mission, because it was so difficult for me. Like, in my mind, I was always So I grew up in a house where we ate like it was always like clean, healthy food, good ingredients, and then on my mission, a lot of the times it wasn't like healthy food, and so I very much got in a mindset of like, okay, I'm only gonna eat a little bit of this, and then when I got home, I feel like I very much had that mindset, but it was like, okay, no, I have healthy, good food in front of me that's going to be good for me. I can actually eat a lot of this. Instead of like the mindset that I had where I was like, okay, I can only eat a couple bites of this.
Yeah.
And so that took me a second to get over. I was like, whoa. And I lost on my way after being home from my mission, I lost it all plus some. Like my pants weren't fitting on me. And I was like, okay, this is a problem now. Now I'm like, I was all over the spectrum. This balance. Yeah. And so that was difficult, just trying to refigure out, okay, like what does my body need at this point? Like, and I think it's difficult now with social media is that there's a million health influencers and now you can throw me in the bunch too. And everyone's saying all sorts of things on social media of what you should do for what's healthy for you. But it really comes down to everybody's different. Everybody's body needs different things. And so it took me a second to figure that out, what I needed. And I eventually was able to heal myself. And, I now have a great relationship with food and very much see my food as fuel. But that took a lot of like mental reset, I would say. Just like a fresh start of like, okay, I'm not on my mission anymore. Like I can choose what I want to put in my body. Let me learn about these foods so that I can figure out what I need and what feels good in my body. And so that kind of just fresh start was really helpful for me in healing that relationship.
I love that. And it, I think it's hard because we love to eat. We need to eat, right? But it's hard I think, is it fair to say you've also learned to have self-control and discipline? I mean, basically what you're saying, but I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not a disciplined person. They just think that, but here you are developing that around that, but you also were raised that way. You guys ate well and that kind of thing. I don't know, did that play a big part of cultivating that discipline, not maybe just with food, but with other things you were doing?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it really takes discipline to not eat a certain food, but also to eat a certain food. Yeah. I think I a lot of times look at it as like, I'm not like when I am working with my clients, I try to give them the mindset if it's not about what you can't eat, it's about what you can and what you should be eating a lot of, instead of only eat a little bit of this, but like focus on what to do. There's so much about what to do rather than what not to do. If you're filling your life with all the things that you should be doing and all the good things, then you're just going to have less time and less room for the things that are not going to be as helpful. And so I think that played a role in food and in eating, but also in school and in all my other life activities and things I was up to.
I love it. So here you are, you've got this coaching business you're doing. Explain to our listeners what that is and why you decided to actually do this and what it's all about.
Yes, I'd love to. So it started all, again, on my mission. Actually, I feel like that's what I usually say, but I think it actually started like before my mission. I have a couple distinct memories of being like, okay, that's what I'm passionate about. And I think the first one comes down to my older sister has a podcast, and she had somebody come in who I think they were... maybe they helped people heal their relationship with food, something to do with food and relationships. Okay. And I remember listening to that podcast, and I was like, that sounds amazing. Like, that's what I want to do. And then I remember that's one of my like starting memories. And then another memory comes from I was in like a health class in college, my freshman year, my first semester. And I remember it's like made me so mad. I mentioned earlier that before my mission, I was insecure about how small I was. And so they pulled up a picture, and it was like a person that was overweight that was running, and then a person that was like really small and just like sitting on a chair. And they were like, which one of these is healthy? And they were like, you might think it's the skinny girl, but it's actually like the overweight person because they're running. And so
they're doing something.
They're doing something. Wow. And I just remember I like walked out of there and I called my mom and I was like, that's so unfair. Like, people are insecure about being small too. Like, there's just because most people struggle with being big doesn't mean that the people who are small struggle with being small, and like they're healthy, their bodies are just built different. And I was just like, that's so frustrating, because like that's a class with like 75 people and you're teaching them just things that just simply aren't true. Like, who knows? It just depends on your body, your lifestyle, and what's right for you. Yeah. And that was another pinpoint that was like, okay, like that's just not fair. Like someone needs to, we're just not teaching people true, correct principles when it comes to food and body image and all that stuff. And then on my mission, myself included, watching me and lots of other sisters like struggling to lose weight and going about it in really unhealthy ways was so hard. And so when I got home, I studied exercise and wellness at BYU. And then I just worked on getting my health and life coach certifications. And that was just, it was amazing. I loved that so much.
That's awesome.
And then now I have the opportunity. I work with a company called PR Wellness. And the lady who's over PR Wellness, like the head coach, I guess, she's been doing this for over 20 years. And she just like took me under her wings. And I told her that I was getting my health and life coach certifications, that I wanted to learn from her. Because I knew a lot of people that were going to her and had so many great things. And so she just took me in and trained me on everything that she knows. Awesome. And I can't thank her enough. And so now I am at the point where I'm working. I've been taking my own clients for about six months now. And it's just been truly the most amazing thing. People will come to me with all sorts of health and wellness goals, whether it's to lose weight, gain weight, heal your relationship with food, learn how to eat intuitively. And
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the Beliefcast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swap and Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode.
All sorts of different things, and I get the opportunity to help them, and it really is such a beautiful experience for me. My favorite thing is when a client will come in and they're so excited to tell me how they did over the week or the progress that they made. And it's honestly, I just feel so lucky to be doing it because as we've discussed today, like body image, and it's so difficult, and healing your body is something that's so personal, and it puts people in a very vulnerable state to come into me and say, okay, I don't like the way I look, or I don't feel good when I do this, like help me. And to be able to help people heal their bodies and their minds and their mindset about food that literally keeps them going every day is such a blessing to be able to do. And so I just feel so grateful and love
That's
what
amazing. I do. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank
Seriously. You. And really, again, this is no diss on your age, but doing this so young is it's actually pretty amazing.
I feel very lucky.
Yeah.
That was something that was hard for me at first. When I first wanted to do it, I was like, well, nobody's going to trust me. Like, I'm so young. I'm 22. And so, well, actually, I'm 21. I'm almost 22.
We'll say 22.
We'll say 22.
Yeah.
You cut that part out. But so I was like, nobody's going to trust me. But it's been cool to see that, again, I am trying to be what I would have liked someone to be for me growing up. And I think I have a niche being as young as I am.
Sure.
I have a unique way to connect with younger people or people my age. As a college student, I work with a lot of people that are also in college, and usually we're working on a smaller budget. We're not going shopping at Sprouts and Whole Foods all the time. And I can help them in those unique ways. And
sure.
I think it definitely has its pros and cons, but I love it, and I'm grateful that people are trusting me with how young I am.
Wow. Well, and I think the reason why you are having such success already and why you're good at it, and I can feel it here, you have a passion for what you're doing and a love for what you're doing. That's what people buy into. What you do is, okay, great, that's on top of, but they do it because they trust you, because they see your passion and love for what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
So that the age is out the window at that point. It doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. Because there was times where man, I'm getting a little older.
No.
But it's like, sometimes it's like, well, maybe I'm not relatable now because I'm old. But again, that's just some silly mindset that I'm wrestling with, right? And the truth is, I love what I do. I have passion for what I do. And that's what people buy into, right? And I get that feeling from you.
Everyone has their own life experiences that are helpful for people who need it. I was talking last night with one of my friends, Callie Stoyer. She has a podcast of her own. And she was like, it's kind of silly, like I'm doing a podcast, but she was like, us older ladies have something to say too. And I was like, that's so awesome, because she's able to touch people in a unique way that other people can't, and you're able to touch people in a unique way, and I am able to. And so we all, I mean, if you have a passion and you love it, and with passion also comes like research. Like I'm sure, like if you're doing something for a career, no matter what age you are, you're putting research and effort into it. And so I might be 21, but I've put a lot of I've put in a lot of work to get where I am now, and to know all the things that I know now that even someone who's 45 hasn't put in that much time and effort into learning about health and nutrition, but I have. So
I love it.
So if you have a goal and you have a passion, just make it happen, and the right people are going to trust you.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. And, you know, we'll put this on all the show notes, but we'll have people be able to link right to you and get right to what you're doing and stuff. But I want to share a couple quotes with you, and then a couple more things, and we'll wrap some things up. But man, this has been a great conversation.
Awesome. Seriously.
I love it. I just feel your love and passion for what you do, and your goodness, honestly. And I could say that about everyone in your family. You guys are amazing. So what do you think of this? This is a little quote. It says, your past trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility.
I love that. So your past trauma is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. Wow, it's like you read my mind before I came in here, because that, I feel like, ties in perfectly with everything that we talked about.
Sure.
I am a huge believer that you can tie every good thing in your life back to the hardest points of your life. I truly believe that the best thing about my life I can tie back to one of my hardest trials. And but if I could have chosen to stay in that trial and kind of just ride that wave, but it all comes down to a choice, and we all choose eventually to get out of a trial. And if we don't, then we end up staying in that for a long time. Yeah. But you have to choose. It's your choice. It's your agency. It's your responsibility. But once you do, that wave just takes you to some of the best parts about your life. And I truly believe that.
Well said. Thank you. That's beautiful. You know, this next, I don't know if it's a quote or a statement. It's just a little long, but I want to share this with you because it kind of now that I've heard your story more, it ties back to that sticky note. I'm going to choke up now. Where you said, someone needs me today. So with that in mind, if I can get through this, I'm going to read this to you. It's kind of long, but I want to hear your thoughts on it, because it's almost kind of like the journey you've kind of been on, if that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Let's hear it.
Love to hear your thoughts. By Alan Watts.
Okay.
Okay. And now that my eyes are all misty, hopefully I can read this thing. Here we go. And it goes like this. Isn't it curious that the moment you begin to grow, the people around you begin to vanish? But when you are reckless, lost in the noise of indulgence, you are never alone. But now as you strive for something more, silence. You see human beings cling to familiarity, not because it's good, not because it's right, but simply because it is known. And when you begin to change, when you step beyond the version of yourself they once knew, it unsettles them. Most friendships are not built on deep connection, but on shared habits. If you drink, they drink. If you complain, they complain. If you fear, they fear. Misery, after all, loves company. But the moment you no longer entertain the drama, the gossip, the self-destruction, the crowd thins. Not because they dislike you, but because they do not know you anymore. And truthfully, they do not wish to. So what will it be? To stay the same, surrounded but stagnant? Or to walk alone for a time and discover the rare few who resonate with your higher self? Because the irony is, the loneliest path is often the only one that leads to true belonging.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it reminds me of you. Like, honestly, like, it's so funny because I'm like, what could I share with Madeline today? Not knowing everything you were going to say today. I just think it fits perfectly with the journey you've been on. Love to hear your thoughts.
No, I love that. The very first thing that came to my mind is something my mom always tells me is, she would always tell me, like, don't form cheap bonds. And what she means by that is it's really easy to form a cheap bond with someone over gossiping about someone that you both dislike, or drama that you heard of your next door neighbor, or oh my gosh, did you hear that so and so did this? And it's so easy to connect over those things. Like, think of how easy those conversations, oh, you dislike this person too, oh my gosh, listen to what they did to me.
Let me tell you.
Yes, those are so easy to form. But what's so much harder is bonds that will last. And those are bonds where you're talking about deep things, where you are pushing each other, where you don't talk poorly about other people, and you build each other up, and you support each other in your goals. And those bonds, they're so much harder to build, but they last, and they're so much more fulfilling. And so that was the first thing that came to mind as you're reading that is people are looking for cheap bonds because people are just looking for any sort of connection. But if you can be that one person that's willing to form those real connections, that's willing to sit down and say, tell me about you. What are you passionate about? Where do you want to go? And how can I help you? Those relationships are going to be a lot more fulfilling, and not only with other people, but also with yourself. Like, how am I choosing to talk to myself? And what goals am I willing to set for myself? And how far am I willing to push myself? Am I going to be willing to be uncomfortable? There's that quote that's like, there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone. I love that quote.
I do too.
It's never comfortable when you're growing, but you're always so happy when you get there.
I know.
And so that's what came to my mind when you read that. But I loved it so much, and I believe every word that was written on there through and through.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it.
You betcha. That was beautifully said. Thank you. If there's anyone listening to your voice right now who's struggling and they're in a dark place right this very moment and they're listening to you, what would you tell that person?
Oh, I would hug them, first of all.
Okay.
I would hug them and I would remind them that they are not alone, and that they are so capable of getting out of whatever rut that they're in, and that they don't have to do it alone. I would remind them that they are capable of so much more than they think that they are, and I'd probably tell them to envision them as like a little kid. And whatever you're telling yourself right now, if you wouldn't say it to that little girl, stop saying it to yourself, or little boy. And just remember that your thoughts are powerful. And if you're thinking that you can't get out of this, then you're not going to. But if the second that you change that mindset into I can, then you can. And that's where everything starts to change. And if you're not at the place right now where you can tell yourself that you can do this, then I will tell you that you can, and it's possible.
Yeah. So. Well said. And I know there's probably someone right now that needed to hear that today.
I hope so.
Seriously. Yeah. Man, you're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like, you really are. Like, you're just well-spoken. You're confident in what you're doing.
Thank you.
You obviously love what you're doing. And again, shout out to your parents. I love them, and they know that. I think the world of them. Your brothers and sisters are amazing as well. Just a great family who has been through a lot, obviously. You guys it was not without challenges. But man, that you guys have fought to just be the best you possibly can be. Not just because you want to be the best, but to be there for other people, like you so beautifully said earlier with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for getting me to talk about all these things. If this is still on there, I told Todd that I'm sorry that it took me like a week to respond to his message, because I was like, I don't think I have anything good to say on there. I don't think anyone will want to hear what I have to say. And then I was like, that's a terrible mindset, Madeline. Why are you thinking that? And so I'm a big believer, and your thoughts are powerful. And so I changed it. I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can have something really powerful to say to someone. So if it didn't help any of the listeners, it for sure helped me. And so I really, really appreciate the opportunity to speak and to share my story. And
well, it definitely helped me. Honestly, I have been fed. My heart is full. Thank you so much. If someone wants to reach out to you, they want to learn more about your coaching and even sign up for your coaching and just get to know you better, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way, honestly, right now is probably through social media. I'm sure my social media will be like linked in the bottom.
It will.
And so message me through there. And then I can throw my email in there too. But honestly, I check my social media more than I do my email. So it's probably the
What
best
is your
route.
email, just in case?
It's mindfulnesswithmads@gmail.com. But mindfulness is with 2 L's.
Yeah.
Like full.
And the reason why I had you do it, the emails for the older people.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
The younger kids will be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to DM her on Instagram.
That's true.
But yeah, that's for us older folks.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll put that all in the show notes. And, but again, thank you for taking some time today. And it was beautiful. I could talk to you all day, but we got things to do. I'm sure you do too. But thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it and love what you do and love the light you bring into this world.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay. There you go, folks. What an amazing episode. Wow. If you're feeling like I'm feeling right now, man, how cool is this? Share this with your loved ones, your family, your cousins, get it out to everybody, please. Let's get this message out from Madeline. And like you said, if you're struggling with anything, it doesn't have to just be with food. Reach out to Madeline. Look at her coaching. She'll help you in any way, and you'll be better for it. So I love you guys. Again, thanks to my sponsors. You guys are the best. I couldn't do this without you. I love you. And Madeline, thanks for being you. Take care.